Hello and welcome to PowerServer 2017, Installable Web Application feature for PowerServer Web-based applications. PowerServer Web, the IWA example environment. For this tutorial, I'm using the latest Windows 10 Fall Creator Edition of the operating system. We'll be using an existing PowerBuilder 2017 application. The deployment target is for a .NET-based 64-bit PowerServer. We're going to utilize PowerServer Toolkit's configuration tool, found in only the PowerBuilder 2017 Universal Edition. And we're going to utilize SQL Anywhere 64-bit version as for the example database. IWA connectivity will be provided through IIS. And we're going to utilize a local deployment model. That means IIS, PowerServer, PowerBuilder, the PowerServer Toolkit, and SQL Anywhere are all installed on the developer's PC. And then we'll investigate the IWA features as found in PowerServer Web 2017. So why use IWA? Of course, you can use the PowerServer Web to actually run your application in the web browser. However, this requires a plugin. And that plugin may cause some considerations for your operations personnel to install in that particular browser. So another way to do it is to actually use IWA. IWA basically treats your web application like a Win32, Win64 application. Runs it as a native desktop application as far as the end user is concerned. And no plugin is required for your web browser. Is this a better alternative for your organization? That's something to consider. Let's have a look at the IWA features and see what you think. Installable web application, what is it? Well, first of all, let's have a look at the overall architecture. In this diagram on the left, you can see that PowerServer has been installed underneath IIS because it's the .NET flavor. Your PowerBuilder applications have been deployed to PowerServer and ready as a web application, and they can be run in any standard Microsoft Windows browser. However, the alternative is to now use an application called IWA Runner. This can be installed on the Microsoft Windows client. IWA Runner acts as a conduit to PowerServer, picking up your web applications and running them underneath IWA Runner, which is basically like the PowerBuilder virtual machine or runtime environment. The nice thing is that your IWA-based application is just a pointer to the real application in PowerServer. And all the application and its resources are dynamically delivered to the desktop at runtime through that HTTP connection. How does IWA work? Let's have a look at the big picture. On the left-hand side, you can see your application running underneath IWA Runner. IWA Runner is pointed, of course, to IIS and PowerServer running inside of it. PowerServer, again, is not a server. It's really a helper to the main application server, IIS. Because in this example, we're using .NET. IWA Runner will actually pull down the application pieces. However, at runtime, it also acts as providing services, for example, to non-visual objects, data window buffering, web service, and database connection, just to mention a few. So those runtime services are actually provided to the IWA application that's running on the Windows desktop. However, without doing any changes to your client-server application, deploying it as a web application and running it as an IWA-based application has automatically converted it to an N-tier architecture. So what are the benefits of an installable web application? There's no dependency anymore in using a web browser, especially the type, version, and settings of the web browser. And no plugin is required as well, so deployment should be much more straightforward using IWA. It's easier for users to launch since it provides a standard desktop shortcut. It consumes less client-side memory than a browser deployment. And just like browser deployments, IWA applications always stay up to date because they're dynamically being delivered from PowerServer. A single IWA Runner installation can run multiple web applications at a time. Again, those web applications look like they're native desktop applications running under IWA environment. An up-to-date IWA Runner can support multiple versions of PowerServer as it's backwards compatible. So for this example IWA application, you need to launch the PowerBuilder IDE and PowerServer help. We recommend using the PowerServer help as well because it covers more aspects of IWA than what's presented here in this tutorial video. Once you've launched the PowerBuilder IDE, you'll see a secondary toolbar, which is called the PowerServer Toolkit toolbar. And on that toolbar is a configuration tool link from the PowerBuilder IDE called the Application Profile Configuration. The icon looks like this on the left-hand side. Once we launch that configuration tool, we're going to complete the IWA properties for PowerServer 2017 web application. Then we're going to redeploy the existing application. Note that the application has to be marked in PowerServer Toolkit as either a web or both type application, both meaning it's ready for web and mobile use. Then PowerServer 2017, the toolkit, as well as PowerServer, will create an install package for IWA Runner and your application. You'll need to install IWA Runner and the IWA application to the desktop. Once installed, it'll be linked to PowerServer application at startup. Then we'll have a look at where does my PowerServer IWA application reside, and then if I need to uninstall it, how do I uninstall an IWA-based application? So let's have a look at an IWA demo and cover those particular aspects that we just talked about. So starting the PowerBuilder 2017 IDE, we can see on the lower left-hand side a secondary toolbar. This secondary toolbar corresponds to the PowerServer Toolkit, or the utilities used to basically map to your existing PowerBuilder application and how to deploy and run that once you've actually mapped to it. So we're going to be using this particular utility, especially the first one, which is the configuration utility. So we're going to click on that, and then we'll have a look here at the sales application. So before we do that, let's first run the sales application just to get an idea of how it actually looks and feels in a native Win32 environment. So I'm just going to hit the run here. We can see the sales application starting. We can log in and notice that we can actually get information here from the customer database. We can actually have toolbars. We can process pull-down menus, cascading menus from here as well. So everything looks like a standard Win32, Win64 application. If we go to the configuration tool, we can see here that the sales application is defined for both. So if we go here to the run, and we actually run the sales application in the, for example, Internet Explorer web browser, we'll see how the application looks like when it's actually loaded from PowerServer itself. And here we actually see the application starting in the web browser. And again, it looks and feels exactly the same as it did before in the native Win32 environment. And we have toolbars, and we have pull-down menus, and we can interact with that web-based application just like we would for a Win32 application. So let's go back to the configuration tool. And I'll draw your attention to the fact, first of all, that the project type, if you're mapping to an existing PowerBuilder application and you have a configuration already mapped, make sure that the project type is either set to web or both in order to get the IWA aspects activated. Once you've done that, notice that at the runtime settings, we have a new area here called IWA App Settings in PowerBuilder 2017 PowerServer Toolkit. If we click on IWA App Settings, and I've already filled it in, we can give it a name, Sales App Demo. We can assign an icon. Again, notice that your icons that you use should be either 16 squared, 48 squared, or 256 squared in order to be optimal resolution. And we can put in some kind of a description. Sales app that tracks customers. And then you just hit OK. From there, you're going to actually hit the deploy once you've filled in those properties. And at this point, PowerServer Toolkit will actually scan through those changes, communicate that to PowerServer, and redeploy the application with those changes. And now at this point, we can actually test the application in the IWA environment. You have a choice here. First of all, in the development environment, we can just hit run. From the run button here, we can say run as a desktop IWA. This will actually install the IWA runner and the installable web application on your desktop. So this is actually how you can do it in the development environment. So that's the short way. What I'm going to do now is show you the longer way. So again, in production, because you wouldn't have the PowerBuilder development environment, what you'd actually do is actually point to the actual PowerServer, in this case, localhost. I'm going to type in sales, /IWA-runner.html. So all you need to do is basically / PowerServer DSN name or IP address / the name of your application / IWA-runner.html. That web page has been built for you automatically once you've filled in the IWA properties and redeployed your application to PowerServer. Once we do that, notice it's initializing the IWA environment. It's now basically downloading and getting ready to install IWA Runner. So the first thing we do is actually run the install for IWA Runner. So hit the run button at the bottom of your browser. It's going to confirm what language you'd like to have IWA Runner, and then continue on into the MSI install. And that's it. So going back to my desktop, you notice here that we actually have now a shortcut on your actual desktop called Sales App Demo. If you use the right-hand mouse button and go to Properties, you'll notice, however, that this actually just runs IWA Runner, and then it actually points to the actual application on PowerServer. In this case, again, HTTP localhost / sales. So this is just a link to where the application actually resides. So now when I double-click the shortcut, you notice here it actually starts the sales application demo application. And from here we can log in. Again, we can look at customers. We can actually have a look at orders, and the data windows work the same, the graphs work the same, the menus work the same, the pull-down menus work the same. And now we can exit the actual application. And there you can see that the Sales App Demo application, now running as an IWA application, works exactly the same as it would in the browser or in a Win32 executable. So let's have a look how an IWA application that gets redeployed, the changes are automatically picked up the next time the user runs the IWA application. In the Sales Application Demo, let's have a look at the main menu. You can see here sales report by order type, order product category, and by customer. Let's modify the data window that actually drives that behind the scenes. So I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to select by order, by product, by customer. And then we're going to scroll over and we're going to change the actual font color for that particular three that we've selected. We'll make it something visible like yellow. We'll save that data window change. And again, we're going to go back to the deploy here in the PowerServer toolkit, and we're going to redeploy that application with those changes. This is going to result in an incremental compile, which will redeploy the changes to PowerServer. So let's go back to the shortcut, Sales App Demo. Let's double click the shortcut. And when we log in, notice that the main menu, the sales report by order, by product, and by customer is now yellow. So here's a great example of changing something, redeploying the application, and then all your users automatically get the change the next time they restart the application. So how do we actually remove this application when we're actually finished with it? In order to remove it, we're going to go to Windows Settings, Applications. In the features for search, I'm going to type in IWA, and you can see here that IWA has actually been installed. If we'd like to install that application, we just hit the uninstall button. Confirm, and away it goes. Are you sure? Yes. And now it's actually going to uninstall the IWA runner. Going back to my desktop, you'll notice that the shortcut has actually been removed and the application is now gone. So congratulations, you've now successfully built and deployed an installable web application. Thanks for watching.